This power supply is the Seasonic Connect, and it's probably the most interesting power supply that I've seen. And that's because it comes in two parts. So you got your standard part, which is the power supply. However, all the connectors are on the separate part, which is, I'm calling it a brick, but it's on the separate part. You got your standard motherboard, PCIe, SATA, Molex, CPU connectors all on this brick, and it connects to your motherboard at the bottom, down here. And this then in turn connects to the back of your PC case via, we got them over here, little magnets, so you can move it around to the best possible spot for cable management and reach. Because instead of having giant connectors like this, which comes off Corsair RM850, you have, I'll find the, oh yeah, right here. This is the motherboard connector that comes with it, which is significantly shorter. So the only downside I see of this is trying to get these connectors to reach from the back to the CPU connector, to the motherboard connector, and the PCI connector. This could cause a problem. It might not be long enough to reach all the different connections. However, them being so short, if you got extensions to use instead, combined, they are still shorter than the wire that came with the Corsair power supply. So you do have a lot more possibilities and some better cable management, all depending on the case that you're using. Looking at the 7000D that I have, that I'm going to test it on back there, unfortunately it's designed for an EATX case, and that EATX case has the slots in the back where you're going to feed the cable through further away from an ATX motherboard because it can hold a wider motherboard in it. So I feel like I'm not even come close to reaching with this, and I am going to have to use the cable extensions, but that's not a bad thing because this is just going to add to the aesthetic of the case. It's going to be a white case, so we're going to have some white cable extensions in there. The other downfall is where this is about 3/4 of an inch thick. If your PC case doesn't have 3/4 of an inch between the back panel where your motherboard attaches to and the back panel, you won't be able to fit this in there, or you won't be able to get the back panel on. And it comes with all your standard cables. We get a bunch of PCIe cables, CPU cables, and like I said, they're all pretty short. I guess this one is a little bit longer than the motherboard cable, but they're not much longer. They're still significantly shorter than the Corsair, like your standard power supply cable. And it comes with a bunch, if you look at the back, it just comes with several CPU, PCIe. You get SATA, Molex. Yeah, you get all the cables you need. The question is, do they reach? For Seasonic, aside from having a power button, we have a hybrid mode on here, and that just runs in fanless until it reaches a certain threshold, and then the fan will turn on. The back of my 7000D is looking a little busy because we have some SSD mounts here. We got the back plate that could come off to access the back of the motherboard. So we'll play around with that here in a minute. But like every other power supply, it gets installed the same way. I don't plan on using this in the hybrid mode. I'm going to keep that off. So I'm going to have the fan facing downwards so it can blow the hot air down through the bottom of the case. Thing about this case, there is a lot of room to work with. All right, after that, we'll connect this. And I'm thinking, yeah, this is not as much room to work with as I thought. I feel like that might be the best spot, and it's sticking out quite a bit. So it comes with a bunch of disc magnets, and then like some, I don't know if it's rubber or whatever, kind of stops. And these are supposed to sandwich, or the magnet is supposed to sandwich in between these. They're anti-slip discs, so not sure why it has to be sandwiched in between, but that's what they recommend. So that's what I'm doing. So if I want this to go here, I'm just gonna try putting a couple on right here for now. You can see, I'm just putting them at the very top. Yeah, that is not closing properly. Okay, so if I connect it like that, still gives me clearance from the motherboard, not touching it. Oh, there we go. We have success. Now the only problem I have, and we'll jump right to it because I don't think it's going to work out, is will the CPU connectors oh, it might reach to the motherboard. So I do say, gotta say, it does have fairly easy access to everything, which is nice. Let's go just a bit. And this thing, the CPU cables just barely reach. All right, so those ones connect. Now we need the motherboard cable. So yeah, that is not going to reach. The fan hub is getting in the way, and these will only go so far. So I will definitely need to use the extensions there, but like I said, that's fine because so here's the problem you're going to run into if you have to use cable extensions. Instead of just being able to pull it straight down and tuck into the cubby hole that we have here, you have to find other areas to push these cables down so they're not poking out. Yeah, extra cable ties are going to come in handy, but I don't think you're going to be able to get the back looking as nice if you have to start using cable extension. Like I said, the problem with this motherboard is it can fit an EATX. So the ATX motherboard ends around here, and you have this much room that this the motherboard power connector has to reach instead of being right beside it. Now I need 2 PCI cables. So I'm going through the bottom. I could reach one of these, but the second one will not reach because I can't even get that to go up any higher. That is the lowest that is going to go. Yeah, it's getting to be a really tight squeeze trying to, and that's not a very wide, I only have a 3060 in here at the moment, so it's not even a very wide GPU, and I'm not liking that. Too much tension for my liking. So that seems to be the downfall to this PSU. Just you have to have the right case for it, or cable extensions, one of the two. So we're going to go and add the cable extensions and attach that to them. Well, these ones being low enough down, we will be able to tuck them underneath. A little bit anyways. And then I need one SATA connector. and that's for the fan hub. My biggest concern is you have to, like I said, you need to have the right case. It has to be able to fit this in there, and this is actually 210 millimeters thick, so it is close to 3/4 of an inch. So you need that 210 millimeters of clearance. So if you do plan on using cable extensions, this will work out very well for you because you have such short cables that come with the PSU, so you won't have as many cables bunched in the back. If you don't plan on using cable extensions, you need to have the right size case so that you can reach all of the different components. Like I was saying, this is an EATX. It can fit an EATX motherboard, so you have a significant room between the end of an ATX board and the slot to put your feature cables through from the back. If this, like in other motherboards where it's only an ATX case, if this was closer by 1.5 inches, you'll have substantially more room to be able to connect the motherboard cable into that the brick that's magnetically attached to the back of the case. And then as well, I guess the only place I would have concerns, uh, but it probably could work out, is just the cables connecting to your GPU, and that's going to depend on the size of your GPU.